Bill Maher thought he could toss a subtle jab and move on. But Jasmine Crockett's calm, devastating response didn't just stop him, it flipped the room and the internet. Upside down, the dressing room at CBS Television City in Los Angeles was cold not in temperature, but in spirit. The kind of sterile quiet that comes from a space polished so often it forgets real people have to sit in it. Jasmine Crockett sat poised, elbows on the armrest, her phone screen dimming in her palm. A young assistant popped in with the softest of reminders. 10 minutes to showtime. She nodded, exhaling not from nerves. National TV wasn't new to her, but this one felt different. 2 days earlier, her communications director had called. They're calling it a conversation on polarization and civility, he'd said. Then came the pause. But if Maher goes where I think he might, they're going to bait you. Be ready. She'd given no answer then. But the silence backstage tonight said everything. No water offered. No introductions to the other guests. Just muffled laughter from the hallway, laughter that stopped the second she stepped in. 2 minutes. Reese, her assistant, said from the doorway. She rose, smoothed her powder blue blazer clean lines, no flash, and checked the mirror. No cracks. No room for them. The walk to set carried her past a wall of black and white portraits, TV icons, men in suits, men with opinions, men who never had to measure their tone for fear of being called angry on cable TV. When she reached the stage, she offered Maher a polite smile. He nodded, barely, and gestured toward her seat like he was holding back a private joke. The lights came up, the theme played, they were live. Maher leaned forward with a half grin. Our next guest is a rising Democratic congresswoman from Texas. She's young, sharp, and possibly the future of the party unless emotion gets in the way. A soft chuckle from the audience. Jasmine tilted her head, not confused, but calculating. Good to be here, she said, voice steady. Hands folded, Maher's smile tightened. Let's start simple. Why do so many progressives these days feel the need to moralize everything? She didn't answer immediately, a slow blink, a slight nod. She'd been expecting this. Then she leaned forward just enough to take up space. Moralizing. I think you mean standing up for people who usually don't get heard. Maher smirked. Right, but don't you think passion sometimes gets in the way of governing? There's a lot of yelling, not a lot of results. It's like everyone's trying to go viral instead of get things done. A polite, uncertain laugh rippled through the audience. Jasmine didn't smile. I get it, she said, calm as glass. Young people, especially young women, especially young black women, get called emotional when we care too much, or angry when we speak directly. Meanwhile, someone else can lose their temper, curse on air, and it's called passion. Interesting, isn't it? Maher shifted in his chair. You're making this about identity? I'm talking about approach. People want solutions, not lectures. And I'm telling you, she said evenly, you can't separate identity from approach. If someone spends their life watching their community get ignored, underfunded, and blamed for problems they didn't create. What exactly do you expect them to sound like when they finally get the mic? Soft? The room tightened. The laughter stopped. Maher crossed his leg, forcing a smile. Sounds like a good soundbite. Jasmine didn't blink. Maybe it just sounds different because I didn't need to raise my voice to make the point. Maher leaned back, his grin thinning into calculation. Well, you talk a lot about how hard it is for women like you, but isn't leadership about taking criticism without calling it oppression? The sentence hung heavy, smug, loaded, the kind that dares you to flinch. Jasmine didn't. She turned just slightly to the audience. No smile. No raised voice, but her tone sharpened like a blade. Let me ask you something. If I sit here and explain how certain systems push people to the margins, and your first instinct is to call it playing victim, what does that say about how you listen? Silence, real silence, no coughs, no whispers. I'm not oppressed because someone disagrees with me. She continued. I'm pointing out a pattern. And the moment I name that pattern, suddenly the conversation shifts to whether I'm too sensitive, not whether the pattern exists. That's not debate, asterisk, that's deflection. The camera lingered on Maher. A flicker crossed his face, the brief moment. Someone realizes the narrative isn't theirs anymore, asterisk. Jasmine stayed steady. She didn't have to be loud to be undeniable. The camera cut to Maher, his expression. Faltered not much. Just a flicker, but enough to show that split second when someone realizes the narrative might be slipping from their hands. Jasmine stayed steady. And let's be real, she said. You've built a career saying the uncomfortable thing. You pride yourself on pushing back against the mainstream. But when a black woman does the same thing, when she challenges you directly, you don't call it brave. You call it emotional, asterisk. A woman in the audience clapped. Then another, then half the room. Maher lifted his hand, trying to wave them down with a smirk that didn't quite land. All right, let's keep it civil. Asterisk, I am being civil, Jasmine said, calm as ever. I'm just not being small. Asterisk, the line cracked through the air. No fire, no shout. It didn't need any. The weight came from the truth behind it. The years packed into that single sentence. The restraint sharpened into precision. It wasn't just a response. It was a correction. A boundary drawn in real time. Asterisk, even Maher couldn't spin it for. A moment, he leaned back and exhaled, part scoff, part surrender. He fumbled with his notes, hands moving just a little too fast, the rhythm off. The crowd noticed. Not because they were on Jasmine's side, but because for once the story wasn't being filtered through sarcasm or spectacle. It was two worlds colliding, and the quieter one was winning. Asterisk, Jasmine didn't push. She didn't need to. She adjusted her blazer, settled into her chair, and waited. The real shift wouldn't come on that stage, it would come after. Asterisk, when the show ended, the world started talking. The credits weren't even finished when Reese burst into the dressing room, wide-eyed, phone in hand. You're trending, asterisk. Jasmine arched a brow, unclipping her mic. Already? Asterisk, number 2 on X and climbing, asterisk. She took the phone. Her mentions were a flood, screenshots, 15-second clips looping her saying, I'm not being small. Edited into GIFs, overlaid with dramatic music. Bold white captions reading, say that again, asterisk. They're going to twist it, she murmured, asterisk. They already are, Reese said. But you should see the comments, people are eating it up. And not just political Twitter, everyone. Asterisk, no producers came in to say goodbye, no handshake, no thanks. Just a passing you're clear from a staffer before the door shut, that was fine. Jasmine wasn't looking for a debrief. Asterisk, on the drive to the hotel, her phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from staffers, journalists, friends back in Dallas. Pride, awe, a few simple, damn. Her mother texted, you were raised right. That man thought he had you figured out. He didn't, asterisk, but the praise wasn't the only thing rolling in. By the time she hit the hotel elevator, headlines were live. Congresswoman Crockett lashes out. At Bill Maher in on-air clash, she shook her head, handed the phone back to Reese, asterisk. Lashes out, she muttered. Every time a woman sets a boundary, it's violence. Asterisk. Reese didn't respond. He pressed the elevator button, asterisk. Upstairs, she kicked off her heels. The hotel room was quiet, familiar quiet. She flicked on the muted TV, her own face filled. The screen while a panel of talking heads debated whether she went too far. One said, this is why Democrats struggle, they alienate people with this tone. Another countered, she never raised her voice. She was surgical, asterisk. She didn't listen. Long. Rubbed her foot, reached for the remote. Her phone buzzed again, a call this time. Washington, D.C. number, asterisk. This is Jasmine. Asterisk. Congresswoman Crockett, a male voice said, calm and professional. This is Ed Ramos at CNN. We'd love to have you on tomorrow morning to follow up on your appearance tonight. Asterisk. She paused. I'll have my team get back to you. Thanks. Asterisk. After she hung up, Reese asked, you want me to say no? Asterisk. Jasmine leaned back, looking at the dark city through the window. Tell them we'll think about it. Asterisk, because that was the truth. She didn't need to run to another mic, another headline, another table of people waiting to misread her on purpose. She wasn't running from the moment, she just refused to let it shrink her into one. Asterisk online. Her words were already moving without her. Not as hashtags or slogans, but as confessions. Strangers wrote about their workplaces, about being told to smile more, talk less, not take things so personally. Parents posted about raising daughters who speak without apology. Asterisk, it wasn't just politics anymore. It was personal. Asterisk, one post stopped her scrolling. A selfie of a high school girl in Columbus, Ohio, a sticky note in her hand. In black Sharpie, I'm not being small. Asterisk, by morning, the backlash roared. Headlines multiplied. Clapback, fiery exchange. Congresswoman torches Maher. The usual flair of digital sensationalism. Cable panels split. Morning radio weighed in. Podcasts. Dropped emergency episodes. Asterisk, some called her brave. Others called her divisive. A conservative host sneered, "She's just an activist in a suit." Asterisk, back in Dallas, Jasmine sipped reheated coffee at her kitchen counter while Reese scrolled through interview requests. NPR, MSNBC, some indie outlets. Even that guy from The Viewpoint wants you. Skip him. Asterisk, already did. Asterisk, she stared out the window at the faint sunlight breaking over the rooftops. Real quiet here. Asterisk. Do they want to talk policy? She asked. Asterisk, Reese hesitated. Mostly, they want a reaction. Asterisk, of course they do. Asterisk, Jasmine knew the game. She just hated how one moment after a string of interruptions and dismissals could be reduced to a viral clip. A man from the Capitol even called her office that afternoon. Said he respected her spirit but warned, "The press doesn't always treat these moments kindly." Asterisk, translation, you made them uncomfortable. Don't do it again. Asterisk, but Jasmine wasn't flinching. She'd known the risk when she walked into that studio. What she hadn't expected was the ripple inside her own party. A congressman she once respected tweeted about decorum and unity, without naming her. Moderates called for restraint on both sides, as if speaking plainly was the same as shouting, as if not being small was somehow too big. Jasmine didn't fire back. She didn't didn't go live on Instagram. She stayed quiet on purpose. She met with her staff, made a few phone calls to grassroots leaders she trusted, spoke to a group of high schoolers in Garland over Zoom, and thanked them when one girl said, "I felt seen." That was the part no one put in the headlines. No one talked about how much restraint it took not to shout, not to cut someone off, to sit there measured and push back without ever raising her voice. People didn't realize that sometimes not reacting takes more strength than going off. Asterisk, still, it gnawed at her how quickly people wanted her moment reduced to a meme. A savage comeback instead of what it was, a deliberate act of self-respect. That evening, she sat at her desk alone, laptop glowing with emails and interview prep she could ignore. She opened her journal, a black notebook with a worn leather cover, and wrote 5 words, not loud. Just clear enough, then she closed the book. She wasn't chasing cameras, she wasn't looking for applause. But she wasn't going to let anyone else decide how she was supposed to show up. That choice, that line she drew, would follow her long after the hashtags faded. Asterisk, a week passed. The internet moved on to a celebrity divorce, a leaked video, another political scandal. Jasmine's clip still floated around, shared here and there with captions like, "This is how you do it," but the noise had thinned. She didn't mind. She didn't crave noise. What stayed with her were the quiet conversations that happened after. A woman in her district mid-50s, school admin pulled her aside at a Mesquite town hall. "I've sat in meetings where men spoke over me for years," she whispered. "You said the thing I never could. I just wish I'd said it sooner." Or the retired pastor from Longview who left a voicemail. "I didn't agree with you, but I respected how you carried yourself. That's how grown folks should talk. Keep speaking plain." These moments, these pieces of quiet honesty, grounded Jasmine more than any headline ever could. Asterisk, they also reminded her why that night mattered. It wasn't about clapping back or winning an argument. It was about setting a standard. There's a pressure that comes with being a black woman in politics. In rooms where decisions are made before you speak and judged harder after you do. People love to say, just focus on policy, but when your identity is treated like a distraction, neutrality becomes a luxury you can't afford. She thought about that while speaking to a group of interns from small Texas colleges around a long table, notebooks open, eyes wide. One young man from Lubbock asked, "How do you decide when to speak up and when to stay quiet?" You don't wait for the moment to feel safe, Jasmine said. You speak when the silence feels heavier than the risk? Another intern asked. How do you not get angry when people talk down to you? I do get angry, she said, smiling softly. But I learned that anger doesn't have to be loud to be real. You don't always need volume to hold power. That lesson wasn't from a book. It came from rooms where her tone was picked apart more than her ideas, from moments where she wanted to explode but did not because she was afraid, but because she understood the impact of stillness. After the meeting, a young woman lingered behind, nervous hands twisting. I want to run for office one day, she said, but I don't think people will take me seriously. I talk fast, I get emotional. People say I care too much. Jasmine looked at her, gentle and steady. Keep caring, she said. That's the part they're scared of. She stood at the window after they left, watching cars crawl below. The world out there was noisy. In here, in this exact moment, it was clear. Her words on Maher's show had traveled far, but what mattered was where they landed. I'm not being small wasn't just a viral line. It was a reminder that strength isn't always loud, that clarity carries weight, that refusing to shrink is its own kind of power. Even with all that, the story wasn't done, not until the people watching understood what it meant for them. Most people won't ever go on live TV or face a host with millions watching. They won't be turned into hashtags. But they will sit in rooms where they're spoken over. They'll work jobs where their competence is doubted the moment they speak. They'll be in conversations where someone smiles while making them smaller. That's where this story lives now, not in the clip, but in the reflection it stirred. A young teacher in Tulsa sent her a handwritten letter. I played the clip in class. Not for the politics, for the posture. We talk about bullying, but we rarely teach what it looks like to stand up for yourself without striking back. A man in his 60s from rural Oregon wrote, I don't agree with you on much, but I saw how calm you were. I've never seen someone take a hit and respond without throwing one back. That stuck with me. That was the legacy of the moment. Not that Jasmine Crockett won a debate, but that she gave people something they didn't know they needed: permission. To be firm without being cruel, to take up space without apologizing, to correct without retaliating. In a culture obsessed with clapbacks and takedowns, that kind of presence is rare and powerful. The deeper message was this: you don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to shrink to be accepted. And you don't owe anyone the version of yourself that makes them comfortable at your expense. When Jasmine walked into that studio, she wasn't looking to go viral. She came to talk about policy. What she walked out with was louder than any headline: a blueprint. A blueprint for every woman told she's too much. For every young person called unrealistic. For every black voice told to calm down when all they did was speak clearly. The story whispers a reminder: you don't need permission to be whole. You don't need applause to be right. And you don't need to change your tone just to fit into someone else's comfort zone. So ask yourself, where have you made yourself smaller to survive a room? Where have you backed down, not because you were wrong, but because you feared the label they'd give you? And what would happen if you stopped? What would happen if, the next time someone tried to define your worth by your delivery, you looked them straight in the eye and said, I'm not being small. The moment you do, everything shifts. People will feel it. Some will respect it. Some will resent it, but they won't forget it. And neither will you. If this story reached you, pass it on. Say the words out loud if you have to. Let it remind you that your voice matters, just the way it is. Asterisk.